And next we have Lu Li from the University of Pennsylvania.
Thank you for the introduction. Sorry. Okay. Thank you for the introduction. Hello, everyone. My name is Lu Li. I'm a final year PhD student at UPenn, advised by Dr. Yong Chen. Today, I'll be presenting our work, LATTE, a one-shot lossless algorithm for federated target trial emulation. So target trial emulation is a powerful framework for generating high-quality real-world evidence by mimicking the design principles of randomized controlled trials using observational data. However, one key challenge in applying target trial emulation is that after applying the rigorous eligibility criteria, the sample size drops dramatically. For example, in one drug repurposing for ADRD study we conducted, even though we started with EHR data of over 6.5 million patients, after applying the inclusion criteria and dividing the patients into different drug groups, we end up with only hundreds of patients for each analysis. At the same time, the bar for regulatory-grade real-world evidence is high. According to the FDA guidance, for real-world evidence to be used to support regulatory decision-making, the underlying real-world data must be reliable and relevant. And by relevance, the term specifically means having a sufficient number of representative patients in the study. And therefore, to meet these high standards, we need large, diverse international studies. And the OC network, with over 4,000 collaborators across 83 countries, provides the scale and diverse population needed to produce high standard evidence and impactful findings. However, one key challenge is that individual patient-level data, or IPD, cannot be shared across different countries due to country and region-specific privacy laws, such as HIPAA and GDPR. And privacy-preserving federated learning algorithms offers a promising way to overcome this challenge. It allows us to gain the benefits of pooled analysis without having to share IPD and only share summary-level statistics. Within the OC research network, several federated learning algorithms have been implemented. For example, the distributed linear mixed models, the distributed generalized linear models, and the distributed generalized linear mixed models. And these algorithms have two desirable properties for federated analysis. The first one is one-shot, meaning that only one round of communication is required in the analysis. And second is lossless, meaning that the results we obtain from the federated analysis are identical as the results from a pooled analysis, with no accuracy loss. To date, only a few algorithms have achieved both properties, and they are mainly for regression tasks. Therefore, we still need to develop federated learning algorithms for target trial emulation. And one additional desirable property for target trial emulation is that we want the ability to handle unmeasured confounding. And we can achieve this by mitigating residual systematic bias using a set of negative control outcomes. So negative control outcomes are outcomes that are known a priori to be unrelated to the exposure. For example, in the Legend T2DM study, the authors used tooth loss as an NCO that is known to be unrelated to antihyperglycemic treatments. Now, with these three desired properties in mind, we developed our method, LATTE, a one-shot lossless algorithm for federated target trial emulation. So here's how LATTE works. At each site, it will fit a site-specific propensity score model, and then stratify its local patients into strata based on the propensity scores. And then within each strata, we will generate some summary-level statistics, specifically the contingency table for each stratum. This procedure will be repeated at each site in parallel and independently, and the summary statistics can then be shared back to the coordinating center, where we can reconstruct the log likelihood for a conditional logistic regression model using the summary statistics only. And then we can use maximum likelihood estimation to estimate the parameters of interest. And in the second step, we will perform a negative control outcome calibration, where we can first estimate the bias using the negative control outcomes and also the treatment effect estimates for the outcome of interest. We can then subtract the bias from the treatment effect estimates to gain the debiased treatment effect estimates. So we performed some simulation studies to compare the results from the pooled analysis and LATTE. As we can see from these two figures, the LATTE algorithm achieves the identical effect sizes and standard errors as the pooled analysis, confirming its lossless property. We applied LATTE to a real-world application for ADRD drug repurposing. We used 4 large-scale academic hospitals as our dataset, covering more than 40 million patients. We screened 112 commonly used drugs and used 24 negative control outcomes that are selected by domain experts. And through our analysis, we identified 25 drug candidates from 6 drug classes, including the GLP-1 RAs, steroids and anti-inflammatory agents, and cardiovascular and metabolic drugs, and so on. For each drug candidate, we used 3 sites data as the discovery set and the yields data as a validation set. One additional sweet byproduct of the one-shot nature of LATTE is that it allows us to perform continuous monitoring of drug treatment effects over time as more and more data becomes available. For example, for the GLP-1 RA drugs, we did not observe any protective effects back in the beginning of the study in 2020, but 2 years later, as we have more data, we observed increasingly protective effects, and the effects tend to stabilize afterwards. So in summary, LATTE performs federated target trial emulation in a one-shot lossless manner while mitigating systematic bias. And it achieves this through using summary-level statistics only. And LATTE is ready to use and ready to be implemented within the OC Research Network. And lastly, I would like to thank my collaborators and data partners. And lastly, I'll be on the job market this year, so if you have any leads or interest in my work, please do feel free to shoot me an email. Thank you.